what we're finding is going to destroy the two things that keep Islam on its feet, and that is we're going to destroy the book and we're going to destroy the man. Jana gana mana adinayaka jaya hai.
Did you know J. Smith has very strong, yes, I mean the J. Smith has very strong Indian connections to the beautiful country of India. Do you know the secret behind J. Smith's overpowering sound, his voice that enabled him to literally shut out all the Islamic speakers at Hyde Park, at Speaker's Corner? Join me as I take you through an interview that I recorded just yesterday, and it was so wonderful, so marvelous. I learned so many things. I'm sure that even you would. And towards the end, I was shocked by something great coming from. I can't even tell you what it was all about. And it will just break the suspense. So join me as we go on an interesting journey on what drives J. Smith, how he came up in the field of apologetics. What is his advice to the people of India? What is his advice to the young budding apologetics in India, apologists in India? What are the latest findings in Islamic studies, Quranic studies, and of course towards the end, this mind-blowing, what do you say, some great gift to the people of India from J. Smith himself. We have so many things planned out with Jay, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Click on the bell icon so you get reminded and updated as we upload fresh content. There is so many new things happening in the show. And so here we are live with the J. Smith, and it's a fanboy moment for me. When I started off in apologetics, it was I basically learned a lot from Sam Shamoon at that time, and there was J. Smith. And one thing I couldn't really understand is that why is he, how is he rather so aggressive? How is he so straight to the point and almost fearless, if I can say that, in all his work that is done across UK. So here he is, J. Smith. So on to you, Jay. And I would like to start off with asking you a simple question. That is, from what I understand, is that you have very strong roots in India. In short, an Indian connection. So
That's
that was
right.
something like a revelation for me. So can you take us through that, please?
Narendra, it's good to see you. It's good to be with you. Thank you for having me on your show here. Listen, that's true, Narendra, and it pretty much formed me for what I have been doing and what I'm doing today. My grandfather came to India in 1913, so over 100 years ago, and his grave is in Bihar in eastern India. My father was born in India. He grew up in India. He spent his formative years in India. Was sent back after his father died to America. His mother stayed in India. He was sent back to live with some aunts, and he was brought up there. But then he decided that he always wanted to come back to India. And in the 1940s, I think it was 1948, while he was
Wow.
in seminary in New York City, my mother, who had always wanted to go to India, was in the same seminary there in New York City, Union Biblical Seminary, and she heard that this man that was on his way to India. So she walked up to him and said, "Since we're both going to India, why don't we get married?"
Wow.
So she proposed to him. And I
Okay.
said, "Well, let me pray about it." And he prayed about it for about a week, and he came back, says, "Yeah, let's go ahead and let's get married." They weren't in love or anything. That was just because they were both heading towards India. My father was born there, had spent his formative years there. My mother had always wanted to go to India. They got married. I asked them years later, when did you fall in love? And they said, "Well, we don't really know, but we're certainly in love now." It's much like that Tevier scene in Fiddler on the Roof when Tevier asked Golda, "Do you love me?" after 25 years of
Yeah.
washing clothes and making your bed. So it was that kind of situation. So they went to India in 1948. I was born in 1953 in Mussoorie, up
In
in
India.
Uttar Pradesh. Yeah, I was born there,
Ah,
and I
wow.
spent all my schooling, my school till I was 17 years old. I was there up in Woodstock School in northern India. Both my sisters were born in India. They also did all their schooling there in India. So we've had a rich background. My parents wanted to come back to America after they retired. They did not like America, so they went back to India again. And
Okay.
they bought a house up there in Mussoorie, and then they died in India. Their graves are in India. My
Oh,
sister is still there, and with her husband, I don't think they're ever going to leave India. So we do have a strong heritage, inheritance from India, and Narendra, that's possibly the reason why I do what I do because I have that background in India. Remember, most of your Muslims are in northern India.
Yeah.
Vast majority of Muslims, we're approaching almost 200 million Muslims now, are in the northern part of India, Uttar
Yeah.
Pradesh and Bihar, all the way over
Yes.
to all the way over and coming down the west coast down to Gujarat. So all that area is the area I was brought up in. I had many roommates that were Muslims. I had classmates that were Muslims. So I've grown up with Islam. I don't have a fear of Muslims. I don't have a fear of Islam because of my Indian roots.
Wow. And so that explains, Jay, because when I started, I became a Christian in 2001, and after that in apologetics since 2004. And I started off hearing you, Sam Shamoun, and I always used to get, really surprised. How is this guy so fearless when most of the Westerners try to, have some sort of, like a mellowed down version of apologetics, and here is someone who's just fearless.
Yeah. In fact,
So,
it's interesting you just brought that up because even yesterday we have some Mennonites who are engaging with Muslims here in the United States, and I was Skyping with them. And their biggest problem is that whenever they engage with Muslims, they let the Muslims dominate. And I
yeah,
said, got to get past this fear of Muslims or this idea that somehow you must be softly, you must be Christ-like in your attitude. Just take a
yeah,
look at Christ and see how he treated the Pharisees. Now, I learned that in India, and that was why, in some ways, we have a great advantage growing up in India because I remember when I was in. Remember when we were met Tamil Joshua? I don't know if you were with us on that trip in
right,
Coimbatore, and
yeah,
after he had brought 300 Muslims to Jesus Christ in one debate. And I
wow,
asked him, how can you get 300 Muslims who give their life to Jesus Christ in one debate? He turned to me and he says, you still don't get it, Jay. It's because you've been in America too long. He says, you in America and you in Europe, you've only had Islam there for about 40 years.
yeah,
That's about it. It's Islam is still new to you.
yeah,
You're still kind of growing up with it. You don't know how to deal with it. You don't understand the Muslims. You don't understand when they say that we are a religion of peace. You believe them straightforward. When they say that the Bible, I mean the Quran, is a book of peace, you believe them without
yeah.
ever investigating it. Whereas we in India, we've had Islam here for 1400 years. They
True.
can't say things like that to us without us laughing at them because we know good and well that they are using taqiyya. This is typical, and that's why we don't get that. We don't let them get away with many of the remarks that you let them get away with. And I had to kind of applaud and say, "Yes, you're correct."
Yeah.
And I've become Americanized or I've become Europeanized in my stay in Britain for the last 25 years. I need to get back to India again to get that blood again.
No, 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 Jay. I think you're being too humble because I've seen your work in the UK, especially on Lattice Corner. Lattice Corner, right? That's how it's called?
Speaker's Corner.
Speaker's Corner. I'm sorry. Yeah, Speaker's Corner and the work that you
It's
do.
called Speaker's Corner.
Yes, and I've not seen anyone in that corner using a ladder and talking like what you do. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you can see some pics on the screen, and I put the link to Jay's videos in the description of this video. Yes, Jay. So can you walk us through this? Because I refuse to believe after watching you on Speaker's Corner that is you have become Americanized. No, no, no. I've seen how you debate on the streets. So why don't you give us a background on how the influx of Muslims have changed has changed UK or has changed in UK?
Yeah, I'll do that. But let me just say one more thing
Yeah.
before we segue into that. And that has to do with the fact that the reason why I am at Speaker's Corner, I have the loudest voice down there by far.
True.
You can come out of the tube stop there uh,
Yeah.
at Speaker's Corner, but there at Hyde Park, and you can hear me. You can hear my voice above anybody else across the traffic. And the reason for that is India again, because I was born and grew up in the Himalayas. I was born and
Wow.
grew up at 7,000 feet. And having grown up there as my body was forming,
Right.
my lungs are much larger than they need to be. I have 5 liter lungs. For my body size, I should only need 3.5 liters. So
Wow.
I've got a liter and a half more just because I'm a Himalaya log. I've grown up in the Himalayas. Now that has given me huge advantage at places like Speaker's Corner because I can outshout anybody down there, and I can go for 3 hours without stopping.
I've seen that. I've seen that, and because I'm in India, but I'm not from up north, and I have to say this
You're
that
at,
even I
at
don't have the capacity that
at-
you have.
yeah, you're at
I
sea
can
level.
maintain the tempo. The way you maintain the tempo, I can't maintain it, and that's really awesome. So God has really used you in quite a few phenomenal ways. So how has the influx of Muslims changed UK? What would you say to that?
when I started at Speaker's Corner, which was in 1992,
Mhm.
it was pretty much it was a very violent environment. Now remember, let's give some background. Speaker's Corner has been around for about 160 years. It's an institution in Britain that
Wow.
was created because of the executions that they used to do there at Hyde Park. And
Okay.
so there at Hyde Park on the northeast corner, right where Oxford Street begins, is
Mhm.
where they would execute the prisoners only on Sundays. It was always on Sundays. But before they executed them, the prisoners were allowed to have their last say, their last defense. And they would get up on these boxes, usually soap boxes, because they were strong enough to stand on. That's why you hear this expression, get off your soapbox. That's where it comes from. It comes
Okay.
from
Okay.
they would give their defense, they would be executed, but because of the huge crowds that would come for the executions. Remember,
Mhm.
back in the 1800s, they didn't have television or radio, they didn't have anything to entertainment. So these weekly executions on Sunday afternoons was what brought in the crowds. And of course, they watched the executions, and of course, the crowd was already there, the soapboxes were there. So
Right.
different politicians would get up and they would continue a tradition after the executions to have a free for all where people would get up and speak, and then crowds would come and heckle them. And then, of
Wow.
course, this became conducive for people like Christians who would want to be open air speakers. And that's
Right.
why most of your best open air speakers have all come out of Speaker's Corner. Now, that knowing that, I've always heard about it, Narendra, and I always knew it growing up in India that the best place on earth to engage at anything, because you can say anything you want. It's the only place in the world where there's no censorship.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So
There
you
are
can't get arrested for saying something
You
at
can say,
this.
you can deny the Holocaust if you want to at Speaker's Corner.
Wow. Okay.
There are two laws that they do have. One is that you may not slag off the Queen, and secondly, you may not use any violence. Now, both are broken every week.
But I've heard that you they did try some physical attacks on you, right?
Political attacks, you mean physical?
Physical, yeah.
Oh yeah, we get that all the time. That's why I'm saying they're broken all the time. And back in the 1990s, it was much worse. In the 1990s, up until 2001, look at the date, 2001. Up until then, Islam was not a religion of peace.
Right.
That was not the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I got beat up all the time. And in fact, I had special glasses made where you could bend them in any direction because they would punch me and my glasses would go flying. And I would come home with blood all over my shirt. And my wife would just say, "Don't tell me what happened. I don't want to hear. Don't let the boys see this. Give me your shirt." And she put it into the washing machine and then patch me up. But that was quite normal on any given Sunday at Speaker's Corner. So those laws are broken all the time, and
Wow.
always by Muslims. No one else would punch. We didn't have
Right.
anybody else that would punch. Now, when I first got there in 1992, 93, there were about 10 Muslim speakers. And to be a speaker, you need a ladder. Now, we don't use soap boxes anymore. We use these little kitchen ladders, these little A-frame. Uh,
Right.
I'm sure you have them there, and your wife
Yeah. Yeah.
has
Yeah. True. True. I get it. Yeah.
just to get your head up, just to get up into the cupboard. Well, that's all you need, just to get your head above the crowd. So you need to be tall enough that the crowd can see you and hear you. And so we would use these kitchen ladders. You don't want to get tall ones because remember, the higher you are up, the farther you have to fall. And they
Yeah.
do pull you down. We get knocked down all the time. We get punched, we get pulled down, we get wrestled down, you name it. We get pushed down all the time. So that's why you don't want very long, tall ladders. Now, I was never on a ladder to begin with. I have never been a ladderman. I didn't know how to be a ladderman. You're not taught that in seminary. When I went to seminary, you're taught homiletics, and you're taught homiletics to Christians who agree with you.
Yeah.
No one sits there and heckles you and yells
Right.
obscenities at you and gives you death threats. Not at seminary. So I never really had that kind of background. And having grown up in India, though we had really engaging debates, and the best way I found to engage was in the third class railway carriages there going from Dehradun down to Delhi. Almost
Right.
every time I'd get into debates with Muslims because not only was I American, but
On the
it's by being an American in a very hostile environment. Remember, Americans are not well liked in India because of Pakistan, in our relationship with Pakistan. India was always had a strong relationship with Russia,
yeah.
Pakistan with the United States. So being an American, I had to debate. I had to do that, but I didn't ever do religious debates. Hardly ever, except in schools, except in classes.
Mm, mm,
Now,
mm.
coming back to Speaker's Corner, that was in the 1990s.
Right.
2001, you know what happened on September 11th? We had
Yeah.
9/11. That
Yeah.
changed everything.
It's
The
everything.
narrative completely changed. And from 2001, now suddenly Islam is a religion of peace. Muhammad is a man of peace. The Quran is a book of peace. The God of Islam, Allah, is a God of peace. That is was the new narrative. It almost came overnight, which ironically made it a lot easier for me at Speaker's Corner, because by 1994, I think it was 1994. Yeah, that was it. I'd been at the corner for about 2 or 3 years. I came across some brand new material called historical criticism, studying at School of Oriental and African Studies there in University of London. And under Dr. Gerald Hotting, who was teaching this new material, he was giving us stuff I'd never heard before. I never heard it in my seminary courses, nor in my Islamic degree from Fuller Seminary. I never came across this new material on the Qibla, on the problems with Mecca, on the problems with the whole historical difficulty with the biography, the
Right.
Sirah
Right.
of Muhammad, or the Tafsir, or the Tahriq, or the Hadith, all the late dates, nor all the archaeological evidence and the manuscript material, the whole manuscript evidence that we we're getting on the Quran. That was introduced to me there in London in 1994. And I started taking it down to the corner. I said, listen, this is brilliant stuff because it's neutral. It's not
Right.
a Christian polemic. It's a
Yeah.
historical polemic, which
It's
means
like,
everybody
yeah.
should be asking this question, not just Christians.
Yeah.
And I got beat up really bad. There was one time when I was trying to get, there was a professional boxer. I can't remember his name. He was a convert to Islam. He was a Trinidadian, and he was up on a ladder. And what I would do is I would go into their crowds, and I would try to engage the speakers from the ground with my loud voice,
Yeah.
interrupting. And that was really good because they had to listen to me because my voice was so loud. So it gave me a huge advantage. And they would usually, a lot of the talibés, because around every speaker was a talibé, a group of talibés. And so every Muslim speaker brought their talibés. And they dominated the corner in the afternoons. Now, I would try to get to the speaker and try to engage him. This one case, I think his name was Abu Sufyan. I think that was his name. I could be wrong. But he got off the ladder, came at me, and he just slammed me. And of course, he's a
Oh,
professional boxer, so when he slams, I went flying and I went unconscious. I didn't know what happened after that, but the police told me what happened later on. They evidently 60 Muslims descended on me and started kicking me on the ground. I was unconscious. I didn't feel it. And then a black man came and laid down on top of me and took the blows for me. Now, when the police finally came, because people went and got the police, because they don't come to the corner for reasons they don't want to come to the corner. They don't like the corner. They stay away from the corner. The police do because it's a bastion of freedom of speech. They
yeah.
took me out, and when I came to finally, they told me about this guy who did. I said, "Well, where is he? He disappeared. I've never met him."
Wow.
Now, about 6 years ago, I was on the ladder, and I had just done two half-an-hour debates with four different Muslims. When I got off the ladder, some Arabs started punching me, just out of frustration, not anger, just frustration. And
Right.
then suddenly, a big black man comes and puts his arm around me. He says, "Jay, let's go." And he took the blows for me and led me out, got me out of the crowd. When we got out of the crowd, I turned around to thank him. He had disappeared. So I ask you, who do you think that was?
Oh man.
I
I got
call
the
him
shivers,
Barry, my
man.
black angel. He's my black angel, Barry.
Yeah.
Barry,
Yeah.
my angel. Because it's the same guy, I'm sure, that protected me back in 1995, the spring of 1995. When the police pulled me out, they were quite concerned because they said, "Listen, we weren't there. We could not defend you. It's just a matter of time. They're going to kill you if you do this again. We demand that you get up on a ladder so that we can see you, so you can be seen." And
So
that
that's how it started.
the police were the one that forced me to get up on a ladder. And I didn't know how to do it, Narendra. There's no training for that. You just have to kind of do it by the seat of your pants. You could do it. If I can do it, having never been trained, then anybody can do it. They just need to get out and step out, and the Lord will bless you for it. And more than that, the Lord will protect you. What I didn't realize is that once you got up on a ladder, you have complete control, much more so than you do on the ground. You
Yeah.
control the discussion, you control the volume, you control the questions that come at you, you can control where you want to go with it, and you can shut down the speakers because you're not only up high, you're broadcasting towards the crowd. The Muslims that are yelling at you are broadcasting towards you. The crowd doesn't hear them.
Yeah. True.
And they've never figured that out yet, to turn around and shout the same way I'm shouting. They
Yeah.
never don't tell them. But this is the advantage of being up on a ladder, and I saw that immediately. So once I started on the ladder in 1995, I never got off. So for 24 years, I was on the ladder at Speaker's Corner. Sorry, 22 years, because I left in 2008. 1917.
And now you are in Pennsylvania, United States, right?
Well, I'm in the United States now, and I use this as a base. I'm not really doing that much here. Here, I'm just doing the research, and then I'm off. I'm going to be gone on Sunday. I'm taking off. I'm going everywhere. I'm going primarily to Africa, to places like Ghana and Togo and Zambia and Ethiopia. I'll be there next month. South Africa, and we're training up
Wow.
apologists and polemicists because here's what's interesting. This it segues into your next question, so I'm kind of jumping ahead of you. But your next question was, what about India and what about the apologetic?
Yes. Yes. So yeah. So my basically next question is, yeah. What about apologetics, and how does it? How would you relate it to India, or your advice to the budding apologist in India? What would you say?
Okay, let's define terms because you're calling it apologetics. That is true. Now, apologetics, Narendra, is defending. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
That's polemics. Yeah.
Polemics is going the other direction.
Yeah.
And
Your
that's
question.
where most people don't know or don't understand. I'm a polemicist first and
I
foremost,
understand.
but I'm also an apologist. I must do both and it's much like your football teams. You have a defense and you have offense. The defense takes on the attacks from the Muslims, and we're very good at that. In fact, you have a lot of good material on defense. But I also notice you're very good on offense and your broadcast. You're always confronting your best friend Modi. You're always confronting your wives, and you are confronting Hinduism and you're confronting Islam. You do that brilliantly. That's polemics, and that's a area of study that we don't teach anywhere. There's no school in the world that teaches polemics. Oh,
Yeah.
we are very good at apologetics. My master's degree, my second master's degree was on, my first master's degree was on apologetics. My second was on Islamics, but not apologetics. And when I did my Islamics at Fuller Seminary, no one taught me Islamic apologetics. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not taught
When was
any.
that? When was that?
I'm sorry?
When was that? Your first
That was
degree?
1986, 1985, 1986, 1984, sorry, 1984. So it's long ago. They do not, and they still today, they don't teach Islamic apologetics. That's not taught anywhere except at our Fander course. Our Fander course and Southeast Seminary is starting to teach it. Biola University did teach it with Josh Lingel, but they're no longer. You're teaching it. And that's why it's so important. What you're doing is so important. It's actually, it's so good to see that you guys are aware of this, but that's because you're Indian. And that's the second part of your question. Why is it that the Indians get this better than anybody else? Well, I would suggest the reason you guys get it so much quicker than anybody else is because you understand Islam better than anybody else. And as soon as you open up this book here, you just open up this book, the Quran, you will see it is full of polemics, is it not?
Yeah. True. Very true. Very true.
It attacks the Christians and the Jews, chapter 5, verse 51, chapter 9, verse 29. It attacks certainly the pagans, my goodness, the idolaters, over and over and over again. Chapter 9, verse 5, chapter 47, verse 4. I mean, there's so many verses. Chapter 8, verse 39, there's just so many verses that are on the attack. Now, Muslims, having read this, realize that this book is a book of polemics.
Yes.
It doesn't defend much. It doesn't do much
Yes.
apologetics. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. True. True.
There's not much apologetics because no one's attacking Islam
Yes.
when this was written. Nor do Christians know how to attack Islam. That's why I find whenever you go on the attack, Muslims they're like deer caught in headlights of a car. They just sit there. They don't know what to do because they are hopeless at defense, but
Yeah.
brilliant at offense.
Yes.
We're the other way around. We're great
Yeah.
at defense. All our schools, and we have lots of courses on apologetics, on how to defend the existence of God, how to defend against certainly an awful lot of what we call problems with violence in the Old Testament. These we're great at defending the authority of Scripture, defending the divinity of Jesus, those kind of things. They're defending the Trinity. We have many courses on just that. And I
Right.
remember when did apologetics, I learned the teleological argument, I learned the cosmological argument, I learned the moral argument, all these great arguments on how to defend the existence of God. But I wasn't ever told how to take on Islam, how to take on the Islamic God, how to take on the Islamic revelation, and certainly how to take on Muhammad. Those I was never taught. That's polemics. And that's why I did my doctorate on this. This is where my PhD. My PhD is on apologetics, but also mostly on polemics, the polemics of Dr. Carl Fander, who's from India.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
My whole doctorate is about one of your greatest men in India, Dr. Carl Fander. He was German, but he did most of his best work there in India. He wrote Mizan al-Haq there in India in 1829. And he did his great debate in Agra there in India. And almost all of his polemics were created in Calcutta and in Agra and in Peshawar in
Oh.
what is today Pakistan. So he is very much comes out of the Indian subcontinent. That's why you have a great legacy there, and that's why some of the best apologists and polemicists that we have today, like Ravi Zacharias, is from India. Dinesh D'Souza is from India.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Vishal Mangalwadi is from India. Look at the great minds that our generation that are coming up that are still alive today, who are amazing apologists, but they're also good polemicists. The problem is in the West, we don't want their polemics. We only want their apologetics.
Very true, very true. Because somehow the thought comes that we shouldn't offend them. But as you rightly said, it's very important to make the other party also think about what ground you are standing on. So yeah, you said it very right about the Muslims. That is, they keep on coming up with the same questions. Where did Jesus say, "I'm God"? How can God be three and one at the same time? Jesus didn't die on the cross. But there is nothing when they ever say about defending their own self, but it's always on the offense. So for the budding apologist in India, what would be your quick advice to them as to how they should be progressing and what area they should be focusing on, especially on Islam?
Well, there are two areas that everybody has to focus on. And the
Right.
two areas are simple. You know what I'm going to say? It's the book of the man, the book of the man, the book of the man. That's
Yeah.
my phrase. In fact, I think my team has now, they
Which
have got it,
favorite?
they've got it copyrighted. I have it
Oh,
copyrighted.
okay.
I own it. So
Oh,
the book of the man, and that I got from Dr. Carl Fander. This is what he did. If you look at his book Mizan al-Haq, he confronts the Quran and defends the Bible. He confronts Muhammad and defends Jesus Christ. And when you
wow.
stop, especially with Muslims, more so than any other group, both Islam and Christianity are dependent on those two things. Everything that a Muslim goes to for their authority is the Quran. They have to come back to their Quran. But in order to know how to apply it, in order to know how to live it out, in order to know how to actually use it, you have to go to the Sunnah of the Prophet, which is the man, based on Muhammad's life, based on his sayings, based on his sirah, based on the tafsir, which unpack each one of these verses, and
Right.
based on the tahriq, which would be the histories. So, in order to know Islam, you need to go back to one book modeled by one man.
Yes.
And that's what Ibn Taymiyyah said in the 1300s. He said this, so that's the Reformation right there of Islam.
Yeah.
Back in the 1300s, Ibn Taymiyyah says to be a good Muslim, read the Quran, follow Muhammad. 200
Right.
years later, you had another man in Germany named Martin Luther who said the same thing about Christianity. To
Yeah.
be a good Christian, sola scriptura, only go to that which is scripture. Go back to this book, modeled
That,
by
that's
another
like
man, a bigger man, a better man, Jesus Christ. So take a look and see which is the bigger book.
yes. Wow.
There.
I get the point. Yeah.
So you need to know your Bible well for apologetics. That
Right.
what I would say to anybody listening, learn this book. Listen, let the Muslims tell you all the problems. Go to them, ask them the question, have them unpack this book for you, and many of them will have little post-it notes all the way through it.
Yeah. True. You're right about that.
Now you need to learn how to answer every one of them, and you won't know how to answer them. So my favorite phrase whenever a Muslim comes and attacks my Bible is, give me a week. Give me a week. I have a week to go and talk to Narendra, to go up online and look at our videos on Fander Films, to go up on David Wood's Apologetics 17 website, YouTube site, go up and see Sam Shamunian on his YouTube site. Find out who's actually engaging on those topics. Go to Al Fadi's YouTube site. Go to DCCI, Hatun. Those are the major ones. And the biggest ones are David Wood, Sam Shamoun, myself, Hatun Tosh, Al Fadi, and Samuel Green coming out of Australia is very good on his website. But these are the ones that are already up there, and we've got the material. Pretty much every question Muslims are throwing at us, we've already answered, and they're up there. I've got them. I've done a whole series in the last year, just frequently asked questions and how to answer them within 2 to 5 minutes. So go and learn them because you're not going to get them in any school. There's no school that actually teaches. Now, I'm going one step further. Everything that I have on YouTube, everything that's up there, I write out first. I put it in on my computer. In
Wow.
December, I'm putting together all of now the great thing about YouTube, if you ever go open YouTube, take a look at the description box. Everything
Right.
that I have said is in that description box. The synopsis of everything I've said is right there in the description box. If you don't want to watch the video, just read the description, pull that out, and use that in your defense. All of
That's
that's be put into
good.
a book, and that's what I'm going to be doing in December, writing those all up into books so that we can start giving them out to people so they can start using them. So we're going to have it all available, Narendra. We'll make sure we let you know. We make sure that we will send you copies there to India. You can do your own publishing there and print them up so that you can also use this in your seminaries, in your Bible schools, and in your churches. You need to start engaging. We need to start giving them the equipment because so far no one has done this yet. And I think, why in the world have we spent 1,400 years and not why have we not given defense for all of our young men and women who are engaging with Muslims face to face? That's our job, Narendra, yours and mine, to make sure that the material's out there. So we're doing that. That'll be available. We'll send it to you. Then you can use it. Now, the other thing is, what I would suggest is go up to any Muslim who you meet. Just say two things. I believe the Bible is the Word of God. I believe
Right.
Jesus is the Son of God. Do you have an opinion? That's all you need to say. What
That's
have
a
you
good point.
You pretty much said the rest of the next 6 hours is going to be on these two subjects.
Right.
You put it out there. I want your opinion on my Bible and my Jesus. And you're going to find that every Muslim has an opinion on those two things.
Right.
Now, that means you're going to have to learn about your Bible, but that's good apologetics. See, apologetics is defending this book and defending the man behind this book.
Right.
So let's learn our apologetics. Let's let the Muslims be the ones that actually engage us to do so. They've got the right questions. I don't know of any other group that asks the best questions. They are always confronting my Bible and they're always confronting Jesus. Well, what two subjects do I want to talk about anyways but those two? So let
Very
them set the stage. And if they don't set the stage, you set the stage by just saying those two simple things. I believe the Bible is the Word of God. I believe that Jesus is God. Do you have an opinion? See where it
well,
goes.
that's a great starting point. So thank you so much for that, Jay. And one last question before we close is that I've seen you always on the cutting edge of new Islamic studies, and I've learned so much through the years and more than a decade now that I've been in this. So I've seen a lot of your work with regarding the location of Mecca, the Qibla, and how it has shifted over the millennia. So, what has been the latest discoveries or the latest academical findings, archaeological findings with regards to Islam?
Well, goodness sakes, have you got about 3 hours? You're asking a
I'm
huge.
all ears. I'm all ears.
Now, just to be clear, I don't do any of the research. The research is done by much more capable men than myself. All the material that's been researched on the Qiblas has been done by Dan Gibson. Dan Gibson is a good friend. He is the one that has all his material. Go up on his YouTube site, Dan Gibson YouTube, and just watch his videos. Read his book. Get this one right here. You need to get this book right here. Early Islamic Qiblas. That's the one that's out. You can get it on Amazon. I think they have it in India. I know they do in Europe and they do here in the United States. So you need to get his book and just read it. I mean, you can't get anything more easy to follow and better written. And actually, the pictures are just amazing. There are so many pictures all the way through. Everything is pictographs, so you can follow it quite easily. And he's really written it for the layman. He's written it for people like you and me so that we can understand it. So get that book. The other thing is, if you want me to give you a quick overview of what we're finding now, that this has been listen, I've been working with Muslims for 40 years now, and I've never had it this easy. We've never had it this good. And that's why your generation, I wish I was young like you again. I wish I could start all over again. I wish I had the energies that you guys have. I wish I could begin, because what you're beginning with, we never had. What you have in your hands, we never had in our hands. You're so much further ahead than we are because of the research that has gone ahead. Men like Dr. Dan Brubaker, who has just what he has found on this book, what the manuscripts that he has looked at. He's looked at all the earliest manuscripts and the 4,000 manuscript variants that he has come up with. No Muslim has ever done this. No one has even dared to do what he has done. And he's the first to actually publish it. He's now just come out with his newest book here. If you don't have it, get it. You need to get this book. I mean, it's reflecting there. Corrections in early Quranic manuscripts. 20 examples. This is the book that's the first ever published on this material. He has done it, just did so in May of this year. Now, what are we finding? Well, this is what's exciting, Narendra. Not only are we finding that Muhammad had nothing to do with the Quran, we're not even sure who Muhammad is. In fact, we don't even know if Muhammad had anything to do with Islam. It looks like what we're getting is that Muhammad is nothing more than a redaction. He did exist. We do know that he was a warrior. We do know that he did a lot of raiding. We do know that he was looking for booty and that he destroyed anybody who got in his way. But we don't know of any reference of him being a Muslim. We don't have any reference of a religion called Islam while he was living. We don't have any reference of a book called the Quran that he received. There's no reference of a book called the Quran even in his century. That's not quite correct, at least up until Abdul Malik, which is 685 to 705. That's the first time we see any reference to people called Muslims or even any reference to this man named Muhammad. His name is first introduced on the Dome of the Rock, 691. Before that, we see his name, but not within Arab sources, only outside of Arab sources, as a raider, as a man who is interested in booty. But that whole area is coming out of Dan Gibson's work. And Al-Fadi and I have done a whole series. Al-Fadi is from Saudi Arabia. He speaks fluent Arabic. It's his mother tongue. He even speaks Quranic Arabic. He's doing his doctoral thesis on this book. He's doing his doctorate on the earliest manuscript. He's looking at the Sana'a manuscript, which is the earliest manuscript of the Quran, dated to 705, but that's just the top layer. He's also looking at the bottom layer, which is dated earlier. It's the only Quranic material in any manuscript form that's from the 7th century. Now, I have been working on this since 1994, so you can see I've been working on this for now we're going on 25 years. So this is part of my whole ethos. Why am I so excited about this area? Well, stop and think. When you look at all our material on manuscripts, when you look at all our material on what Dan Gibson has come up with, when you look at all the material that Tom Holland has come up with, when you look and put it all together, when you're looking and seeing what they're coming up with, nothing in it is a Christian polemic. This is not Christians attacking Islam. So it's politically correct.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? No one can say that I'm a hate preacher when I talk about manuscript evidence. No one can say that I'm an Islamophobe when I refer to the historical evidence for Muhammad or the fact that there is no historical evidence. When I start talking about dates, names, places, and events, that keeps it into a neutral framework. It keeps it into historical criticism, which is what the Bible has already been attacked with. See, all these criticisms, redacted criticism, source criticism, historical criticism, literary criticism, have all been foisted against the Bible since the 1800s. We have answered every one of those Christians, we're now taking the same questions and applying it to this book, and no one can call us a hate preacher because we're doing the same thing we did to the Bible. More than that, if any Muslim would dare take me to court because of what I've said, what do you think I'll do? I'll just bring up the argument again. What is it you want? What is it I said? Let me repeat what I said about this manuscript. Let's ask the same question, and I will use the court case to then further my aims in that to destroy the Quran. So no Muslim has dared to take us to court. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, very true. I always used to get wonder about that. And for all the hearers, I really encourage you to go through the material. I put it down in the description of the video. And I'm not saying it just because Jay is there, but the material that is there is mind-boggling. I have to say that it's right over the top. And
you haven't heard the latest. The most exciting is yet to come. I'm not going to say it.
That was my question. Oh, come on.
I have my whole team working on it right now. Wait till you see what we have just found. I can't say it because I don't dare say it, but it has to do with the earliest manuscripts. We can now see exactly the dates for these earliest manuscripts, and you won't believe what we're finding. But that's yet to come. That's going to come out. We're using. I should be able to have it finished by next week. So after next week, I can tell you. I'm going to introduce it at a conference in California next week.
Oh, yeah. You told me that you're flying to California, so that's for this.
I'm doing a number of things in California. That's one of the things I'm doing, yeah.
Oh, then you'll be back in the last week of October, I guess?
Back where, sorry?
Back to Pennsylvania, where you are now.
All over the place. Then I'm off to Ethiopia.
Wow.
I keep traveling. But listen, this new material that we're coming up with, let me say something. In some ways, the researchers who are doing the research cannot communicate what they're researching, because not only are they not good communicators, well, that's not always true, but that's not their job. Secondly, I don't want them to communicate it, to go public with it, because if they do, that will shut down lots of doors and windows and lots of avenues for them to continue their research. So therefore, in order to get this brand new material that's coming out, in order to get it so that it gets out to the public sphere, that's your and my responsibility. That's our responsibility. We are the ones that need to actually communicate it. Not only because we have been doing it for years, but also because we don't have any chair that we're trying to defend. We don't have any position on any institution that I have to defend. I don't have to defend any institution. I only have to defend one person, that's Jesus Christ. I don't even defend myself. So because of that, we have the freedom. You and I have freedoms to confront Islam with this material better than anybody else. And anybody watching it, any of you Indians who are there, you have the right to say anything that we're going to teach you. Because not only the fact that we are now destroying this book, you need to say, and you need to get it out so the Muslims hear it. Because it does no good keeping this in ivory towers up in academic institutions. We want to get it down onto YouTube. We want to get it down onto the book tables. We want to get it into debate format. We want to make sure that everybody hears it, and especially Muslims hear it, because what we're finding is going to destroy the two things that keep Islam on its feet, and that is, we're going to destroy the book and we're going to destroy the man. And we're going to use neutral historical criticism to do so, which is the best criticism, because Muslims therefore then have to defend it. And in order for them to defend it, they're going to have to go look at their manuscripts for the first time. They're going to have to go back and ask the questions they not dared ask. And as I said from the very beginning of this talk that we're having, they're hopeless at defense. They're absolutely hopeless.
Yeah,
they've not done this work themselves. There's not one Muslim name that I know that has done what Dan Brubaker has done.
I agree with you, 100%. I agree with you. And I remember your debate with Shabir Ali, and he was all quiet. He had nothing to say. I remember, at this time, Shabir Ali is the number one.
His only defense was the miracle of the number 19. What a stupid defense. He had no idea what I was talking about. Till this day, he has not defended that. Even after that debate, he had to write a 9-page paper 2 weeks after that to try to defend what he did, because so many Muslims were upset with him. How could he defend? He didn't even know how would you defend it if you never looked at these manuscripts before? Remember, he's always been on record as saying we can trace the Quran all the way back to Uthman, and the exact Quran, in the Topkapi, in the Samarkand, in the Mail, is the exact same Quran that I have in my hand today. He is the one that said that. He's on record for saying that over and over again. He had no idea that he'd never looked at the Topkapi. He'd never looked at the Samarkand. He'd never looked at the Mail. Shame on him for making that claim. And that's why we're forcing Muslims to stop saying that ever again, because we're going to hang them and hold them accountable every time they go public with those kind of claims. But see, we've done our homework. And we know exactly what those manuscripts say. Now we know how much they include, and we know where they do not agree with this book. Well, this is going to be fun. That's why you guys, it's so easy for you young ones, because you have your whole life ahead of you. You're going to be able to run with this for years to come. But just that one debate that in Toronto, that's when we first introduced it. I was the first one to introduce that. Now, I'm going to continue doing that until I die. I'm going to really major on the historical criticism, because the historical criticism, as far as I'm concerned, is the nail in the coffin. It's the golden it's the golden bullet, the silver bullet. I think it's the nail in the side it's the thorn in the side. All these idioms, I'm cross-correcting my idioms, but it's the thorn in the side that Muslims don't know what to do with. How would you defend if you have making claim of
objective evidence? What do you say against that? Very true, very true. At least they try and misinterpret or open up a new red herring. That's what Shabir Ali does. But I'm looking for the next
speaker. And you can only attack the speaker so many times when people start to realize this person has. See, this is a favorite tactic we use at Speakers Corner all the time. We force them to attack us. We almost enjoyed the attacks, because the more ad hominem, the more the crowd realized this person's not answering the question. And we would just say, can you notice they still not answered the question? What's the person attacking me? I'm not the problem. The problem is this question. Deal with it. Answer it. And the more we continue to introduce this new material, this historical, and remember, it's so visual as well. You don't have to know a word of Arabic to see when there's a eraser in a text. You don't have to know a word of Arabic to see when they've inserted a word between two letters. You don't have to know a word of Arabic when you see they've covered an entire line and written in a completely different script. You don't have to even know it. You can see it visually. And that's why it's so easy to confront Muslims with. Now, how are you going to defend this when it's not just one or two or 22 that Dan put in his first book? Like they think that's all he's found. He's found over 4,000 of these.
Wow.
But that's already out there. Wait till you hear what the new stuff we have we're going to introduce. But that's going to have to wait.
That's more than 4,000, huh?
It has something to do with corrections. This is even better than the corrections.
I can't wait to hear it, Jay. But
I
really
corrections that Hatun came up with, the 93,000 diacritical corrections.
Right.
This is better than the 4,000 consonantal corrections. Wait till you see. And that's the beauty of this, Narendra. We're going to keep continuing to find out new material. And almost every year, we'll have to have another YouTube, another Skype call so we can start introducing this material to you guys in India.
I look forward to that, Jay. I look forward to that. But really appreciate all this time that you have given. We've gone more than the scheduled 30 minutes of time. I cannot just stop listening to you. It's been so much fun and so much interesting. You had us all spellbound in this. So thank you so much, Jay. And we all pray for you. We cannot even begin to imagine how you're doing this and all this energy you have at this age, and you just keep doing it.
I'm an Indian.
Speaking, man, honestly speaking, you embarrass me. Because even though I have age on my side, I still can't do even 10% what you're doing, and you are just going on and on. You are such a source of inspiration across the world.
It's that Himalayan water.
Okay, I'm going to the north in a few days. I'll try and have a few, liters of it and see what difference it makes to me.
Sure, you drink that good old Himalayan water with all that beautiful protein that's in there, and you'll have the same voice as I do, and you'll have the same energy that I have.
Amen to you, Jay. And we all pray that God keeps and preserves you and your precious family for years and years and decades to come, Jay. And before I close, can I ask you something that's totally unscheduled?
Yeah.
Do you remember something on Hindi?
My Hindustani log hai, ya baat hai.
Say something, whatever you can, to the people of India in Hindi, if you can.
Do the national anthem. Jana Gana Mana Adinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravid Utkal Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Janna Cholatala Titaranga Taba Shubhana Me Jahage Taba Shubhana Shishamange Gaya Tab Jaya Gata Jana Gana Mana Jaya Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Jaya He Jaya He Jaya He Jaya 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 He. There you go. National anthem.
Oh, Jay, that was just awesome. This is so touching, and I'm sure the viewers are overjoyed hearing you sing our national anthem, Jay. Thank you so much. I wish you were here. I could have loved to give you a hug again. Love you so much. Thank you for all your time and all the work that you do. Thank you again, Jay. Have a great day and visit ahead. Take care, man. God bless you. God bless you. Take care. Didn't I tell you would enjoy? Well, wasn't it awesome? Wasn't it wonderful to hear him? I was mesmerized for this period. It was like a fanboy moment for me. And after my session, I had a word with Jay, and we planned out so many exciting, wonderful new things on what can be done in the near future, where Jay discusses and presents to people on the latest finding in Quranic studies and Islamic polemics. So ensure you subscribe to the channel, click on the bell icon so you get updates on regular basis when you upload fresh content, and most importantly, keep Jay in your prayers. I'm sure that he and his family needs it, and there are just so many things for him to do. There's just so much more to be done. So take care. God bless.